Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. Good morning, Waz.
Good morning.
Are you ready for this exciting webinar?
I'm pumped. I got my Halloween gear on. I'm ready to roll.
Excellent. Okay, well, we have quite the crowd today. I'm glad everybody decided to join our scary Halloween cybersecurity seminar here, or webinar, I should say. Although speaking of seminars, we will be having one in the spring when the weather gets a little nicer, in person at one of our new Lombard offices. So I'm really excited because we're going to bring in some vendors. We're going to have some goodies. We're going to talk about food, of course. I know everyone loves when we cater food. And then most importantly, we're going to be talking about what's going on in the cyber world. So today is going to be a great session because we have new information that you haven't heard before. Some of it we will repeat, maybe with new examples. I think it's always important to keep, refreshing yourself, educating yourself, and thinking about ways to protect your business and even to protect your personal assets. We've had a lot of clients that have come to us because they needed some help on the personal side as well. So we have a few examples there. Waz, our Chief Technology Officer, is going to be the headliner of the show. I'm the Captain Hook that's doing this introduction. I will also be managing the chat and the Q&A wherever you put your questions. Feel free to ask. If I know they're coming up, I might hold out and answer them later, or Waz, I may interrupt you if they're really valid on the slide and you can answer them. So let's move on. We have a good crowd still coming in here, but I'm going to go over to the next slide. Oh, this is what we're going to cover today, the horror of human error. So, one thing that I have learned over the years is that a lot of the cyber attacks and issues stem from a person, a human, who is hitting on the wrong phishing emails, or even recently, we had an individual that clicked on their MFA approving someone to get into their computer, because I think we get like on autopilot and, we're just clicking buttons. So you really have to think about what it is that you're doing. Simple spells your employees could fall under. And I think that's one of them, right? Like, don't click approve on your MFA just because you're used to it. Make sure that it's really you. The plot these horror stories share. Oh, I can't wait to hear about that one, Waz. I love plots. How to keep your company out of the dark, right? We all love the sunlight. We don't want to get into the dark web because there's a lot of scary things going on there, and illegal things, right? So it's not just even about trying to attack your computer, but people are doing all kinds of things on the dark web, and you just don't want to be there. And then Karen, our Director of Marketing, is going to share with everyone at the end some quick tips and a poster that you can print out. Of course, if you want us to mail you some that are nicely printed, we would be happy to do that. You can always send an email to ask@mxotech.com. And then for those of you who are not familiar with MXO, I saw we had several clients that are joining. I love our clients who join. And then some, friends and family and prospects. So a little bit about MXO. We were recently acquired by Intiva, another amazing MSP here in Chicago and actually across the United States. I started MXO, so I am the former CEO. Stephen has taken that role over, but I started MXO in 2005. And my goal was really to provide amazing IT services with great customer service and application development to clients. And I think that's changed over the years. Our goal now has really been to protect our clients from cybercrime, right? Because I know what it means to me to have a successful business, not to have a bad reputation, not to deal with problems, right? So I know that that's something that's kept me up at night, right? Like I always thought about it. If something were to happen to MXO when we were attacked, that could really impact us. And for all of you who either work for your company or own your companies, it's critical that you don't have any impact through cybersecurity, through cybercrime, right? That we keep you guys safe, educated. And I know for those of you who are clients, we haven't experienced that because we take such measures to protect our customers and their networks, their environments, and even their home offices. We've had over 40 employees. Now we're over 400 employees, which is great. IT managed services, like I said, cybersecurity and application development is what we specialize in. And we're just really proud now to have expanded this team to the Antiva team. And we have a lot more resources to offer, things like 24/7 support, more on-site support, various locations through the United States. So if you're interested, you could always contact myself or Karen. But now I'm going to turn this over to Michael Wozni, who goes by Woz and has been with MXO for over 2 years. He specializes in security. He's also a certified ethical hacker and is really interested and passionate about this. So I hope you guys enjoy this session. We wanted to make this fun. That's why we made this sort of a Halloween theme and put on a little hat here because I know these things can get a little daunting, but if you educate yourself and you participate in these kind of sessions, it goes a long way. So Woz, I will turn that over to you.
Okay. So this is a little bit about myself, which seems weird, but that's okay. Hello, everyone, all of our customers. Thank you for joining, and everyone else. Good to see you. So this is me with my family, my wife, and 2 of my 3. It's a little bit of an older picture now. I got 3 kids in total, and they're a nightmare on their own. 3.5, 7, and 9. I'm sorry, 10 is my son at the moment, so double digits there. So Joanna mentioned that I'm CTO at MXOtech. And I manage a lot of different things for the organization, but one of them is security and making sure that our customers, as well as ourselves, are protected on a daily basis to the best of our abilities. So Joanna did mention certified ethical hacker is one of my accolades. I'm a CWNA and a bunch of other acronyms that are likely very boring, but I've been doing this for about 25 years now. I cut my teeth on global IT infrastructure. At my peak, I think I was maintaining 16 locations around the world, including China. China is a scary place to have IT. I'd love to talk to you guys about over a beer one night about how fun that was. And almost getting arrested in the Chinese airport. That was pretty cool. Passionate about my family. It's very true. I love my kids. They make me crazy, but I love them. I love my wife too. She just had a big birthday. I won't tell you the number because I like my life. Beyond that, I'm a technologist. At the end of the day, I love tech. I play around always. I'm really good at solving puzzles. I guess that's why I'm good at doing what I do. And craft beer. Fun fact, I am a certified Cicerone, which is like a sommelier, but for beer. And I'm also a provisional certified BJCP beer judge. I brew beer. I love beer. It's, I think, a magical drink. So that's enough about me. Let's get on with the rest of the seminar here. So thanks everyone for joining. Obviously, this is my Halloween theme. Joanne asked me to wear a hat. This was the hat I have, but it's messing up the camera, so I'm taking it off. But I've got my Halloween background here. So anyway, Joanne, go to the next slide. Joanne is driving the slides today. It's apparently too much for me to do slides and do everything else. So here's the scary story, guys. The idea here is to really just show you some concrete examples of how threat actors are attempting to get into our environments, right? It used to be that they were just going after the big fish. Well, when the pandemic hit, that focus kind of shifted and they've been going after us, being the small SMBs, for quite some time now. Now, the good news is that the tools have adapted to help us out and make things a lot safer for us. And if we have a layered approach, we can really mitigate a lot of this. Some of it's training, and we'll go into a couple of examples of all these. So first reminder, I put this in all my webinars. IT isn't just at the office, guys. And realistically, the office isn't just at the office, right? A lot of our customers are kind of shedding their brick and mortars. We're seeing some come back, which is kind of cool. You know, I like being face-to-face with people. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this, right? But it's at stores. If you've got a phone, your office is with you, right? And this is part of it. So most security hacks are involved in mobile devices and other avenues just like that. Your laptop can go anywhere. So just keep in mind that you don't have to just focus on this at your desk, right? It really can be anywhere. And that's the message of this entire slide. Okay, so the dark web strikes back. We're going to go through a couple of examples here. I'm going to peel them apart. We're going to kind of peel the onion and explain what's happening and what the threat actor is doing and what we can kind of do to mitigate these things. So the dark web strike backs, which is very Star Warsy to me, but anyway, Sam's email was involved in a breach and his password was leaked. So this happens all the time in the dark web. Passwords are bought and sold. If there's a breach into Target, pick your flavor. Uber just got hacked not that long ago. They got access into their AWS, and it was a pretty cool way that they did it. Cool in a bad way, but they essentially mitigated 2FA in a pretty clever way, and I'll go over that. He forgot to change his password, and unfortunately, like many others, Sam reused passwords across multiple accounts. If you don't know, you shouldn't be using a password across multiple accounts. It should be something complex and unique. It shouldn't be like your address or your kid's name and your the date of your birth. Those are some things that people try as a threat actor. You try right away to get through. So in this case, Sam used the same password. So he had password 123 on his bank, on his work account, or whatever. The hacker purchases Sam's data on the dark web. So in other words, he was involved in a breach. Let's say Sam had a Target card and his credentials were in that Target database and it got hacked. So that was available online and you can pay for that. It's pretty cheap in the dark web. After some research on social media, the criminal discovered that Sam works in HR at a small accounting firm. There is more information about you online, guys, than you think. It's pretty creepy. I do this to people once in a while just because I think it's kind of fun. But you can find out how many kids you have, their genders, where you work, what school you go to, a couple of pictures posted online, where who your boss is. People know. I mean, I get phishing attacks that mention Joanna all the time. Oh, hey, Waz, can you go get me these gift cards, right? Because they look on LinkedIn. This stuff is public record. It's very accessible. So anyway, they collect this data on poor old Sam here. Ta-da, the hackers simply input Sam's email and password and had an instant access to his account, like his W-2s, finance, and all their customer information. It's true. If you've got a tax account and you email it to them and they get into your personal email, they got those accounts, right? Did you delete it from your sent? Not likely. So how can we help Sam here, right, is the question. So let's go to the next slide and see what we could have done in this scenario to help him out. One, create complex and unique passwords. That password that Karen put there, Karen puts together our slides, was fantastic. That's an awesome password. There's some daunting feelings about passwords like this. People get frustrated because like, wow, how the hell am I going to remember this password for every web page that's complex and different, right? Each time. Well, the way you do that is utilize a password keeper. The next slide over. So here's a couple of them that we use. Passportal is the one that MXOtech and Antiva uses. We push this one all the time. It's a fantastic tool. Bitwarden, I use that personally. Bitwarden's pretty cheap. It's like $20 a year for a personal account, and it's a plugin. And then LastPass is another one. There's a couple others that are out there too. So what does this do for us? It allows us to make complex, long, case-sensitive, upper lowercase special character passwords and not need to remember them, guys. That's the beautiful part. So this is a plugin that sits up in your window, in your browser window. Could be Chrome, could be Firefox. I use Brave because I'm a paranoid guy like that. But you get this little plugin, and when you go to Chase, you click on the icon, you put in your master password, one master password. Some really good ones have 2FA, so multi-factor authentication to make sure that you are who you say you are. And then it records all these complex passwords. So you click the button, you can copy it, paste it, dump it into the web page, and you do that at each individual web page with a unique complex passwords, so they're hard to crack for the threat actors. So password keepers are great. Oh, and by the way, they maintain those passwords in an encrypted methodology on your computer, so you can't just hack it through. One of the questions they get often is the web browsers, hey, do you want me to save your password good enough? No, the answer is no, it's not. Those are reverse engineerable. I've done it myself. I've had employees leave, had to go into their browsers and then strip out that information. It's pretty easy to do. So a password keeper is highly recommended. What else can we do?
Waz, I have a question for you. So
let's go.
So if I, you mentioned that this is saved on your desktop. What if I need to get into my Starbucks account and forgot my password or cleared my phone? How do I get into that?
Here's the beautiful part. It's a great question. Or what happens if you're in Europe? If Joanna's jet setting like she normally does. So the beautiful thing is all this is replicated in a secure fashion to the web and to mobile devices. So I have all my passwords on here, and I have to authenticate to this to get into them to be able to access them. And I can do that. I was in Germany several years ago and I didn't have my phone. Well, it wasn't working. And I just logged into the web portal of my password keeper, authenticated, and got my passwords for the Gmail account that I had to get into at the time, right? So yes, that's a fantastic question. You have your password wherever you want to go because it is replicated in a secure fashion. So awesome question. What else can we do to help Sam? We can administer ongoing dark web scanning. So what does that do for us? It lets us know if our emails were involved in a breach historically. Is it something we need to worry about, right? And what's fun about these guys, and we do this with our PIR Protect if you're a customer and you have PIR Protect from us, we'll show you. We'll say, hey, listen, Bob, where's Dave's on here? Dave Breyer, hey, Dave. We'd say, hey, Dave, your password has been compromised and this is the password they have. And that way you can know, listen, I got to initiate a password reset, right? And again, I want to be clear on this, guys. Passwords can get compromised in a lot of ways. You can give it up. You can forfeit it. It's called a honeypot or a phishing attempt, which allows people to go through and then you give them your password on accident because you believe you're doing it to an authoritative position like Microsoft 365. That's one way. Or the other way is if it's in a mass breach. You may have not done anything, right? If you're an Uber customer and you had a password and that password was used in multiple spots, just like Sam here, that password might be out there and they could have that. And that dark web scan shows you that. They basically dip into the dark web, scrape off the information that's available, and then we can display it to you. So knowing that is good information. And the last one is enabling MFA. You're going to hear multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication over and over and over and over again here, guys. And there's a big reason for that is because it does work. Now, there's some caveats for it. We'll go over those in a little bit, but you want MFA. You want it on email. You want it on VPN. Those are the primary ones. Microsoft 365, G Suite, Google, whatever you're using, as well as any VPN connectivity or remote access you're using. And the last one's like banking and serious accounts, right? Like if you got a mortgage account, you probably want 2FA on there. A banking account, you want 2FA on there. Okay, so those are all the things we could have done to help Sam. If we had these in place, the risk of this happening would have been minuscule in comparison. Okay, next slide, Joanna. Let's keep going.
If you're a client and you aren't using Passportal yet, please reach out to your account manager and get that set up right away. You could get that set up for yourself, for all your staff members, and we will help you through that process.
Oh, that's what we wanted to do. Joanna, you had go back one real quick. Sorry, we talked about this. You had asked about the Apple and the Starbucks logo. I totally forgot about these. Joanna was at Starbucks the other day, or she was somewhere, I forget what it was, but she said, Waz, I got a prompt that said on my Apple phone that said, hey, your password was involved in a breach. You should change this. So how do I know if that's real or not? I said, that's a great question. You want to look at where it's coming from. So if it's coming from your phone and it's legitimately coming from the app, that's a way to validate it. If the app is asking you and telling you that, that's Starbucks trying to mitigate some risk, right? They're saying, hey, we had some kind of breach. You should really pass it. Now, if you're surfing the web and it pops up and says your password's been, that's probably bullshit. Pardon the fancy language, but it's probably a fake thing. So you can have a little bit of source validation. Changing your password isn't a big thing. If you are asked to change your password, pay attention to where you're going to change it. So wherever they lead you to, look at the actual URL at the top, the full URL, and then notice everything before the .com, the extension .net, .com, whatever it might be. If it doesn't align with what the company that's asking you, it's probably fake, guys.
Right. One thing I do that's a tip I want to share with all of you is if something like that does happen and it tells me to reset my password, instead of resetting it, let's keep using Starbucks as an example. On the pop-up that I received, I actually get out of there and I go to starbucks.com myself. I just retype it. And then I do it from there. So that way I mitigate any of those risks. I would love to hear in a chat if you have seen that where you're getting prompts now from your iPhone or your applications that password has been compromised on the dark web. And if you're not, I think you're going to start seeing that, which I actually thought was super helpful because it notified me. Although we do dark web scans, again, if any of you on this call would like a dark web scan for whether you're a client, whether you're not, it doesn't matter. Send an email to ask@mxotech.com and we will run you an entire dark web scan on your domain or domains and send that over to you.
The dark web's a dangerous place, guys. Scanning it is a good way to do it. This is an actual picture of the dark web right here. So stay the hell away from it. It's not a good place to visit. It is pretty scary out there for sure. So we'd love to help you with that if we can. Okay. The one that will haunt you forever. I love the tops on these. So Jane's construction firm was looking to upgrade their contract with a vendor, Jim's Textiles. Pay attention to the spelling here, guys, because that's all what we're looking at. So when they got an email from sales at Jim's Textiles with a 10% discount, she didn't realize she was followed. So Jane's email account has been previously compromised, and the threat actor had been watching for an opportunity to launch their attack. This happens. Generally speaking, if someone gets into your account's compromised, they're going to look for a big payout. They don't want to get small chunks of information. So in this case, I can tell you where this one's going is they're going to try and redirect funds one way or the other. So they're waiting. They wait in your account. They'll actually circumvent their presence so that you can't see them. A great disguise. Jane was in constant communication with the team at Jim's Textiles. So she's talking on a regular basis, right? And didn't even notice the perfectly timed email from a phony email address. Now, this actually happened. I took part in one of these threats. So I worked for a company called Maurice, and the company was Maurice.net. Okay. And they got our accounting firm, one of our accounting controllers got an email from Movice. So at the very bottom here, you can see at jimstextiles.com versus at jimstextiles.com. So it's a slight nuance and it's very intentional. They'll purchase that domain, they'll set up a phony email, and they can communicate with you. So the devil's in the details. And I think we said that on the next slide, but lost forever is the next header here. With the offer of 10% discount, Jane sent the money that day. Unfortunately, the money never went to the vendor and they still had to pay their contract to keep their doors open. That's what ends up happening is it's kind of a bait and switch here, okay? So let's go to the next slide, Joanna, and we'll peel this one apart a little bit and what we could do. So this is an email. We're going to go over a couple of different things here, but the devil is in the details in regard to the last threat we just went over, right? Is that the source email address has to be valid, right? One thing I can say is, guys, and most people that I talk to that are involved in threat acts like this or scams of this nature, if something feels wrong, you get this sense, right? Check on it. Trust that. Trust your instincts. Pick up the phone. Verify the integrity of it. Hey, Bob, did you really want me to send money from this account to this account? No, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. It's generally what happens. Have some internal controls in place in your company. Anything over $500 could be what it is. If it's more than $500, you need to verify it via voice to that person, right? Let's actually peel apart one of these phishing emails that's in front of us and we can kind of see what happens here. So, is Joanna having problems? She's fading in and out. There we go. Oh, go back up one, Joanna. Nope, too many. One more down. There you go. Here we go. Okay. At the very top here, we say from. You can see the from email address, and then you see a reply to. Typically, there's a reply to address, guys, that doesn't line up. It's one of two things. It's a scam or it's an advertisement. That's generally what it is. You may see some legitimate examples of this, like for marketing efforts and things, but normally, if it mismatches, it's a red flag. Right away, it's a red flag for the reply. Look at the email source. Make sure it's right. Make sure it's not close. Make sure it's right. Right? If it's especially, and do you need to do this for every email? No, you don't need to do this for every email. If someone's asking you to go to lunch on Tuesday, you don't need to do this, right? But if you're looking and they're asking for money or something of that nature, it's worth the extra 2 cents to slow down and make sure it's coming from a legitimate source. What else is in here? Usually these scams are looking for sensitive information. They're trying to build trust with you. Is something they do too. It's called a double barrel approach, where they're trying to build a rapport first and then ask you for the payload of information. So what are they asking for? Your name, they want your age, social security numbers, bank account numbers, telephone numbers, anything. They'll scrape whatever they can. But if they're requesting personal or sensitive information, it's likely a scam, right? It's not normal for someone to ask for this info. If they are, you should correct and be like, hey, we should communicate this in a different mechanism. Email is not inherently encrypted, guys. It's not inherently secured. It's not. People might think it is. It's a misnomer constantly, but it's easy to intercept. It's easy to manipulate. You do not want sensitive information going through this. Okay, what else? Promises of money. Oh, I've got all this gold I need to get rid of. I'd be a multi-billionaire by now if I took on all the different gold bars that had to get dispersed from sheiks in the Middle East. Promise of money, alarming. That's another thing. All of these things feed on the same thing. They want you to act emotionally. I say this all the time, is they want you to react in an emotional manner. And because if you're being emotional, you can't think, right? Oh, the police are coming to get you. This is a fantastic one. Oh, the IRS agents are coming to get you. Okay, great. So if it looks and it has this kind of nuance to it, just, think about it for a second. It's probably a duck, right? If it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's probably a duck. Random capitalizations, these guys still can't get it right. They still screw it up. General capitalizations all over the place, misspellings all over the place, poor grammar. I never understood why that's the case. I don't know, maybe they don't have hacker grammar school. I don't know what the case is, but if you see things like that, it's normally just a red flag. So those are a couple of things you can do to protect yourself and kind of validate what these emails look like.
I want to add something to this, Waz, that I think is really important. So, I think a lot of the people that are on this webinar today, I see the names, you're educated, you know a lot of these things. The one thing I hadn't thought about is to educate your elderly or your children, because this information, our kids now are very much on social media. They have emails, they have access to anything and everything. And the elderly people, the same thing. They, Waz is talking about, they're trying to scare you, right? They're using these scare tactics. They're trying to get emotion out of you. A neighbor of mine, she's in her 70s. She was a victim of one of these emails. And she literally had to sell her home and move into an apartment and actually stay with my neighbor for a little while because she got scammed and sent over $70,000. Okay. So even when you, even though you know this and you have elderly neighbors, you have kids, talk to them about it, right? Tell them, because they don't always know. No one's talking to them. Think about it, right? We're not necessarily teaching our kids this at school. Mm-hmm. And when people retire and they're no longer working, they're not getting these kinds of sessions. So that's something I wanted to point out because I just feel terrible, some of the stories I've been hearing.
Yeah, that's a great call, guys. And as we go through cybersecurity training, you'll find out there's some that are here. It's just not for work. It really is for outside of work. Just like that first slide I said, where it's everywhere. It's not just, it's for your personal life and your parents and your kids and your uncle and everyone else. I mean, don't inherently assume that they know, the ones that you really love, right? Teach them a little bit. Hey, if it's too good, if it looks too good to be true, it probably is, right? And here's some of the things you can do. So here's the thing too, guys, speaking about the boundaries and endless inflation of where these things are being seen. I'm seeing a huge rise in SMS and phone calls. I mean, it's staggering how much this is. And here's the reality, they work. That's why they're doing it. The reason these phishing emails and these scams are propagated and repeat, over and over again, is because they actually work. Because if you think about it, if you're a threat actor and you do 500 of these and 2 of them pay off, within a week, if you're living in a country where the median pay for the day is $5 and you make 500 on one scam, you're going to keep doing it. Right? You have that.
Waz, that's better than a marketing campaign,
No kidding. It is
much higher.
It does. They pay off and they repropagate and it's free money. Right? There's a really good business case for it. So let's expand on this. So it's not just email any longer, guys. It's SMS and voicemail. The IRS one aggravates the living shit out of me. And I'm sorry for the French, but they literally target older people. They tell them, I've heard ones where they'll call up and say, oh, grandma, it's me, your grandson. I need this money to get out of jail. Live phone calls, right? And I need this. I mean, that's a common one. So they're targeting these people. But here's a couple of examples. These are voicemails that are transcribed from an iPhone. You can see it says, hello, your tax file is just slide in my system. I love that, those misspellings. For unfilled IRS tax returns, poor IRS back taxes. Your reference number is this. So some nonsense reference number to try and build validity. Please call me within the next 24 to 48 hours. And they give you a phone number, a legitimate phone number. One note about these, the sources of these guys, You can buy and sell phone numbers very quickly now, and it doesn't really cost much. And they always try to get numbers that look like your number, because psychologically, when you see a number that looks like your number, you have a higher probability of answering it. So my cell phone number, most of you guys probably got it, but 773-396. I get so many spam calls, so many scam calls from 773-396, not only my area code, but also the first chunk of my number, because mentally it provides validity to the fact. So you're more likely to do it. They've proven that. So you'll see a lot of those coming in. So if you see a number that comes in like that, again, be super suspicious. Let's see another one. So there's another transcript. Hey, it's Jeff. It's October 13th. I'm following up with the financial hardship department. I'm not sure if you've spoken to any assigned agent yet regarding the hardship program, but I need your approved for a hardship loan up to $37,000. Again, it's the same thing every time, guys. Sense of urgency, 12 to 48 hours. You need to get a hold of me. There's something going on. The IRS is looking for you, whatever, tax return, right? People hear the federal government and they freak out. $37,000 loan, they're baiting you, right? This is exactly what it is. Like if none of this is initiated, then obviously this is just garbage. And this happens just a lot. No, too much coffee, Joanna. There we go. Is that your hook? Are you pushing the button with your hook? Is that what's going on?
I think there's a gremlin here.
Is it gremlin? Okay.
Yeah, they're just like.
Got it. Here's the text one, guys. Dear customer, Bank of America is closing your bank account. Please confirm your PIN. Again, sense of urgency, right? They're telling the same thing. Hey, you're going to lose access to your money. We're closing your account. And then this is what's beautiful of it. And I love this example Karen put in here, but it says not bankofamerica.com. That's what they'll typically do, is they'll get a very similar URL. They probably won't put not Bank of America, but that they'll put it in there, and then they do something called buffering. So in other words, they put a huge URL so you don't see the pieces up front, right? You don't see that the domain name, so you can validate it or not. In the event that you had to click it, I'd click it on your PC, honestly, if you were going to try it, if you believed it was valid, to look at it and then look at the whole URL there and just make sure it's valid. Again, sense of urgency, trying to take away your money. Next one, FedEx package with tracking code, blah, 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 blah. It's just nonsense. Is waiting for you to set delivery preferences, right? And then look at the URL. And this is what they typically do. They get the cheapest ones. The .info is like $1 and a .com is like $10. So they get e3fmr.info/nonsense, right? Look at the source of it and make sure it's valid. A lot of these go into junk, but a lot don't. So just understand this is an attack vector. Again, this is a great one for kids to know as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because all of our kids are ordering online. So here are the three you really, really need to watch this holiday season: UPS, FedEx, and Amazon. Okay. You know, everyone's ordering from Amazon now. All of our gifts for Christmas or holidays are getting delivered through that. And you don't realize how many spoof spam emails that are coming in to during, and they watch, and they actually start those in like Walmart. There's a bunch of them, right? But they start like now in the month of November and go through, you know, the end of December. So that's going to be like the highest spoof email that I think you all should tell your kids about and look yourself.
Yeah, and if you think, guys, you're not seeing these, I don't know if you got an iPhone or not, but I was showing a couple the other day and they were kind of shocked. If you go to your text and you back out of all the text on your iPhone, there's a thing here that says junk. This is my phone. Oh, I don't know if you can see it. It might blur it out. I've got 33 of them right now, just from a couple of days. They're all in here. They're just the iPhone caught, and not all of them get caught. So they do come through. So I challenge you, do it on your phone. Take a look. There's probably a bunch that are in there. It's great examples, especially for you. And again, they can be curtailed to you. They can be targeted towards you based on the information that's available about you online. Okay, another one. Under ransomware spell, Phil opened what he thought was the latest Excel sheet of customer invoices he needed to reach out. When the screen went blank, sorry. All the work he was diligently doing, gone. Then a warning popped up on the screen. Your files are locked. Pay $150,000 in Bitcoin to access. This is 100% ransomware. It's typically not a blank screen. It comes up, it's like red, and there's like, or there's a shield. Like they try to make it look official for some reason. It's really wacky. His colleagues around him all started to murmur. They were seeing the same thing on their screens. His boss panicked and was immediately on the phone, but Phil had to say something. Turns out it was ransomware. Yeah, no kidding. And his company stopped doing data backups last year. That one's terrifying. As soon as I read that line in here, I was like, oh, they don't have any backups. That's fantastic. It was either paid $150,000 or lose everything for the last year. Even when making the payment, there was no guarantee that the data would be restored. So I want to talk about this real quick in a couple of different ways. Most threat actors, when they encrypt your files, if you are caught in this scenario and you do pay the ransom, some people do choose to pay the ransom. I advise against that for a couple of reasons, but it is a case-by-case basis. On average, there's two things that are pretty staggering. One, about 30% to 40% of your data isn't recoverable. Not at all. Even though you paid, doesn't matter. You don't get back 30 to 40% of it, which is pretty horrible. Secondly, the probability of you getting hit again within the next 4 weeks is really high. Most places get hit an additional 2 times with the same thing because they don't close the holes that were originally in place. And they don't train their staff appropriately. So getting into a ransomware situation is horrible. And truthfully, I'm a big Shadows Blackhawks fan. The best offense is a good defense in this case. And we'll go over some of these things. So let's go to the next one, Joanna. We'll talk about how we can mitigate this literally terrifying thing.
All right, Waz, real quick before we go on, I have a question for you. You know, you talked about in this example backups, right? So, you know, let's pretend I don't own an IT company. I own a distribution or accounting firm or something like that. And I work with, and I have an IT guy, or I work with an MSP. How do I know that they're backing up my data, right? How often should I check that? What do I ask them to do? Or what should they be providing proactively to me, right? So that I know, so that I'm not in this situation.
That's an awesome question. Ask them to prove it. So we use Datto for all you guys that are customers here. We use Datto. And the beautiful thing about Datto is it does screen verification of all your systems. What does that mean, Waz? Okay. When the system boots up, when Windows boots, it shows you a screen and says, hey, this is the login screen. If you don't see a login screen, that backup is not going to recover. And we've run into this. We have this from time to time. The sysadmins work diligently to prevent this, but this happens sometimes. So ask your company to prove it. If you're worried about it, just say, hey guys, can I get screenshot verifications of these things are booting up? One more step. This might be an extra thing, but something you may want to consider. We have a new offering at MXO, if you're using Datto, where we do a test recovery. It's pretty affordable. It's we basically boot up your environment in the cloud, and we'll let you go look at it and verify it in that context. Say, yep, everything's good to go here. So you're literally proving the restoration of the environment. So that's a tactic you might want to do too, is inquire about that. So that's how I'd answer that, Joanna, is, prove it, have them prove it and show you that everything is working. Because the last thing you want to do is pay for this service and not be able to get your files back, right? Yeah, and which has happened many times. I can tell you that, I've seen this over the years where clients have come to me that were not MXO clients, but they thought their IT company was backing things up. They had a big backup and disaster recovery machine, a BDR, sitting there. And guess what? The light was red the entire time. So if you think and you trust that it's being backed up all the time, I always ask, right? Trust but verify. Have you heard that saying? I think we all have, right? Like that's an easy one. Trust but verify. So your IT company should really be providing that to you, at least, on a annual, semi-annual basis, just showing you. If not, you need to request it or from your IT person, because I think that's critical, because you know how it goes, right? When it rains, it pours. This is a perfect example. Something happened and guess what? The data wasn't being backed up. I had someone that came to me that was a business owner who had his family life photos being saved on his server at work, because he's had this business for a long time. He was saving everything on his server and the server wasn't being backed up. He lost his family life photos. I mean, how terrible is that? So trust but verify. Yeah, I've taken part in scenarios, guys, where servers and data, large chunks of data were lost and there's no recovery plan. It's a sad day. Emotionally, it's bad for everybody. Financially, it's terrible too for organizations. So let's not put ours in that situation. So here we go. How do we get around this one? So ransomware. Endpoint detection and response. AV is not good enough anymore, guys. I've been talking about this for a while. What's the difference between antivirus and endpoint detection and response? Endpoint detection and response typically has an AI background in it, and it's behavioral analysis on your computer. It's watching files and folders and the way they execute. Actually, Catherine's on the phone right now. She's very hip to this one. She's one of our customers, and she's got a program that they utilize that's a little bit antiquated, and it opens and closes files in a very weird way. What Sentinel-1 is doing in this case is going, hey, this doesn't look right because it's got one file opening another file via a process, and it doesn't look very clean. So it's identifying those as being a threat and stopping those. So what's beautiful about it, in that case, it's a false positive, right? But what's beautiful about this is if you did have a threat, if that ransomware did pop up and it grabbed things, what it's doing is it opens a process on your computer, it accesses all of your files, and it starts encrypting them in a very rapid fashion. I've seen it do 16,000 files in roughly 30 seconds. 16,000 files in 30 seconds is ridiculous how quickly it does it. So what this does is endpoint detection and response. The response portion is the most critical one. It records the changes that this threat acting software does, and then it rolls it back. It has the capability of spinning it back because it took every single step. And this one's really valuable for all of our customers because you're using this. If you have MXO right now, you have Sentinel-1. If you have AV and you're not a customer, you need to start talking about endpoint detection and response today because AV is not good enough anymore. We can get a forensic report in the event of an issue. We can show you and go, hey, look, this is where the threat came in. These are the files that it grabbed. Here's everything it unwound, and you have a clean bill of health going forward, which is fantastic.
And especially for a lot of you who need to meet compliance, right? You have to show that kind of data. And it helps us to figure out what's happening. All of this also helps you with your cyber insurance, right? I cannot tell you, when I started this business 17 years ago, no insurance company ever asked us to fill out a form unless it was perhaps in healthcare. But now I think we're filling out 2 to 3 forms every single week for our clients to obtain cyber insurance, and they're getting stricter and stricter and denying it. So this is why I think, also we took action, not just to protect our clients and be ahead of the curve, but also to make sure that they can meet their cybersecurity compliance, right? Because like a product like Sentinel-1 that Waz is talking about serves a lot of those needs and gives you that protection and is a lot more innovative than AV. And Waz, can you just, like, for a second, if I'm not technical, if you're talking to my grandma, can you explain to me the difference between this AV versus the EDR solution?
That's a great one. So the way I explain it is this. If you remember the old time cop, he's sitting in his car and he's got that APB list, right? He's got the list and it says, oh, this guy's a bad guy and this guy's a bad guy. And that's what they used to capture viruses on. It was definition based. Well, new threats evolve so quickly. They're what's called a 0-day. In other words, they're brand new. So we've never seen it before. So that definition list is kind of useless because it can match partials for it, but a lot of things get through it. So the difference is that this is like a live bouncer. That's the way to think of it. Like there's a bar, you've got a live bouncer, and when someone's cruising in, they're looking at him going, let's see, is this guy doing any shady stuff? Is he okay? And then not only that, they're watching them as they roam in the bar to see, are they shaking down people? Are they stealing people's beers? Whatever the case may be. They're watching it for unusual behavior and recording it. So they're recording the behavior that's happening. So in the event there's an instance, it can pull it back and reverse it. So that's the difference between it. Definition-based versus behavioral and AI reinforced behavioral analysis. 5 years ago, guys, we couldn't even afford these. We couldn't afford it. This was like CIA stuff, right? Now we can. As a matter of fact, you need it. You have to have this kind of protection.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, this was great. I was really excited when we got this for ourselves, for our clients. And these are the kinds of things you need to constantly make sure that you're enabling within your organization to protect your business, right? So it's not just you know, like we talk about security is like sort of an onion, right? With like a lot of different layers. You're constantly peeling it. So it's employee education, you know, that's a big one, but it's also things like this. So they don't even get to the employees, right? We don't even want these things to get to the employees because we want to protect them because they don't always know. But you know what? Nothing's 100% proof. So that's why we do these educational sessions to talk to you about it. So that you can make sure that these layers are all in place to protect your business.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next one we have here is enlisting an upstream email filtering and protection. It's funny because this is called like an anti-spam proof point. It does do anti-spam, which is cool because it blocks off stuff you don't want, advertisements. But more than that, it's upstream email protection, right? It's filtering out things that could be phishing attempts. It doesn't get everything, but it does a very good job for those of you who are enrolled in Proofpoint. It does a fantastic job of grabbing it. You get that daily digest every day. Mine's like 1.5 miles long, how much stuff it just scrapes out. So again, back to Joanna's point, this is never getting to the user. It's another block to stop these things from getting to the user in the first place. Next one is install DNS protection. DNS protection is really great in a lot of ways. One, same thing. It doesn't allow your user to go to a place that they shouldn't. If it's been identified, like let's say there's a web page in a phishing email, and that web page has been identified as a threat, whether it's scraping information or it's pretending to be Microsoft 365 logins or whatever, it stops that. So as soon as they get it, let's say it went through Proofpoint, they get it on their desktop, they click on the link to go get the file, right? If DNS filter identified it, it won't let you go there. It'll say, sorry, this web page has been blocked. It's this, and this, right? So again, another layer of protection. And it also has some productivity loss and some risk mitigation. Like for example, you can block with DNS filter like pornography. I'll just throw that one out there. Or hacking or bomb building. I mean, these are all things that are on the internet, but you probably don't want your associates going to, right? So it'll block that proactively. It'll block, you can limit Facebook. You can say, hey, listen, you can go on Facebook for an hour a day. That's the max we can do. So some productivity gains potentially there as well. Last one here is having backup and disaster recovery. We hear BDR, backup disaster recovery. Again, we use Datto. There's a couple of different ones that are out there. Datto's fantastic with that. In place, and the important thing based on what Joanna just said too, is that it's tested. You need to make sure that it works. Whether you do an annual, biannual, quarterly, you can do a proof of concept to bring it back up. MXOtech, if you're a customer, say, hey, account manager, can you show me the latest backups, make sure that everything's worked up? We'll show you all the green dots, screen verifications, and all the systems that are working and rocking and rolling. So again, backups and disaster recovery are no good unless they're actually tested. So
Waz, I have a question for you. By the way, Waz and I have not practiced any of this. So this is me just like as a business owner.
She always does this to me. She always does this to me.
Just in case you guys thought this was like preset, it's not. Okay, so Waz, I'm a client, right? Great. You can like send me this, this like report showing me that your backups are taking place. But that's like today. And then I might remember to ask you, in 6 months, how do I know that it's happening daily? What is MXO and Tiva doing to make sure that the backups are taking place daily and that we don't have the same thing going on that my prospect did, where they had a big BDR and the light was red, it was on, but it was red and nothing was happening.
Got it. So this is part of the contract you have with us. So I hate to say, trust me, bro, but some of this is this because the sysadmins do this. So if there's a backup failure, we're alarmed. This is what you hired an MSP for, is so that we maintain it. And we're beholden to that too, because in the event that you did ever restore, we have to go and get it and produce it for you. So you can ask for it for the proof.
Do we have a dashboard, Waz, that we're monitoring it?
We do have a dashboard.
Right.
We have a dashboard and alarms that come out of that dashboard. As a matter of fact, we had some false positives that showed up probably about 3 months ago for our customer, in that it was showing us a green light and we weren't actually getting the restore. We brought that up with Datto and Datto fixed it. They said, oh my gosh, we had no idea. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. They fixed the issue. Luckily, there was nothing too terrible that happened in that particular instance, but this is something we're monitoring on a regular basis. The sysadmins look at this. Anytime there's a failure, we get a notification to us saying, hey, listen, server XYZ for customer Bob's Bagels failed at this time. So we're maintaining that and making sure that everything is backed up. If you have Datto,
Sounds good. Well, I mean, other solutions do the same thing. It's not just Datto, right? Like we happen to use Datto because we like it. It does a lot of the monitoring. We have a dashboard. We can do restores. We can do all those things. Like if you're not working with us and you have another solution, they probably have something similar. You have to ask what that is and how you can see that proof, right? Trust
Yep.
but verify. All right, let's move on.
Okay. A ghoulish mistake. We'll go over this one fairly quick. I don't think we have too much of this, too many people that have HIPAA requirements, but what this essentially is saying is Craig works at a marketing at his local hospital and posted a photo on social media. Other nurses hard at work. What he didn't know was a haunting image. The photo seemed harmless, but protected health information was visible on the computer screen. So I'll sum this one up real quick. Essentially, poor Craig here was trying to market the hospital. And when he did that, there was personal identifiable information in the photo. I want to expand this past the office because there's not a lot of HIPAA compliances, but something to think about here. It's great you do marketing. We do marketing all the time, right? You need to make sure that there's not personal information within those pictures. My wife's really good at this, believe it or not. She takes a lot of stuff of our kids. And what she'll do is she always blacks out the logo of not necessarily our kids, but the logo of the school and the faces of the other kids, because she just doesn't think it's appropriate. We can share that out. And she does that for personal endeavors.
Well, I mean, she's in healthcare. She's a doctor, so that, you know.
Yeah, so it's part of her kind of like modus operandum, but something to think about if you're doing this. Like if you want to share health, if you have a marketing team, or even if the marketing team's you guys, and you want to send out a cool picture, just look at it and just make sure there's nothing in there that someone's going to be offended about, right? Does it say their name, like on their shirt? Like if you're putting this on Facebook and it literally says Michael Wozni on their shirt, I might not be cool with that, right? So just think about that while you're doing these kind of endeavors and make sure that you're not going to do something that's going to compromise or risk. So this goes to PIR Protect. This is our training platform. Most of you guys, if you're a customer, should have this. This does ongoing training for phishing and scams, right? It's super cool to have this. What this does is it establishes a baseline for your customer, for your users, pardon me, and it actually will send them campaigns. So fake emails, it'll send them these sneaky little emails. And if they happen to click on it, so fake phishing emails, it says, hey, you shouldn't have clicked on this. Here's what you can do to avoid this in the future. And it gives you these little micro trainings. I actually like doing these. This is a guilty little pleasure. Like I'll go in here and I'll do these little micro trainings. They're quick little videos. They're super cool. And then you raise the score. And what's nice about this console for PII Protect is that it shows you your baseline. And it shows you the entire company and how it's progressed and how they've gotten better. And we almost always see this, guys, this upward trajectory. If you look at this, it's kind of small, I know, but you got that red line and then it gets better and better and better and better as more people train. You're teaching them. You're taking your employees who could be your biggest liability and turning them into a cybersecurity asset, which is fantastic. So we really love this platform. It does move the needle and it makes it different. If you don't have this, I definitely recommend that you do it. And you have these campaigns going on a regular basis. This is also, guys, this identifies the people who really need some help. I mean, let's be honest. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to add something to that because I had a thought recently. So I see, you know, when Karen and I are talking to prospects or our clients and they're really excited and they see this portal and they're like, oh my God, this is so cool. You know, all these employees are taking it. This is the quiz. And then they don't do anything with it in 3 months.
Yeah.
So here's what I want to talk to all of you on this call about, whether you're working with us, whether you're doing this independently, whether you have another IT company person, you need to put this on your calendar that every single quarter, right? Because there's new videos, there's new events, there's new holidays, there's new scams, there's new everything. Every single quarter, at the minimum, that you are going into this portal, putting out these simulated phishing attacks. You're looking at these scores, you're seeing who's taken them, who hasn't. And when I say you, I don't mean just you. Go talk to your HR manager. Ask your HR manager, show me this dashboard, right? Because that's what we always recommend. When Karen and I talk to our prospect, we say, hey, this is something great that we could set up for you. And then your HR manager could handle this, or your IT manager, administrator, whoever that is, right? Go to that person and see, when was the last time you really sent these out? What are the scores of our employees? Because, I talked to one of my clients and I said, hey, can we pull up your portal? Can we see like what's going on? And there was nothing, no activity. So great that you have it. And it's a great that, I love that I was saying great tool, but guess what? What's the best tool? The best tool is the one you use. The best tool is the one you enforce.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if it's this one, that one, or this one. Use the one that you have. So I'm going to leave you with that today, because I was really frustrated to see that our client didn't do anything with it for 9 months, right? And we give you this and we spend money. And so I really want to make sure that you're utilizing it, because your employees are the easiest victims. All right, I'm done on that.
Yeah.
I get a little emotional, excited about it, but
we want to leave time for Q&A, guys. So we're going to kind of rapid pace through the end of this so that you guys have time to ask questions and whatnot.
Roz, I do have a question here from Catherine.
Sure.
Joanna, Roz, you both make me smile. As you're okay, good at what you do. You respond offline. Do you have recommendations for insurance companies? Yeah, we actually do. So Catherine, I'll respond to you. That's a great question. I'll read the rest of this. But Tech Rug, Josh is amazing. He actually sponsored one of our cybersecurity events. Yep. We've been using him for over 10 years. They're amazing. Karen, who I know is on this call, our director of marketing, I'm going to have her send out Josh's contact information, because he's been incredible with us and our clients. So I'll get that sent out to you. Let's go to the next slide. Because usually Roz finishes like 20 minutes early, but Roz, I think we got to get through this.
Joanna beat me enough to slow down. So this is a laptop, guys, that was stolen. So Avery had a laptop with a bunch of information on it. She left it at Starbucks. It got stolen. Next slide.
Okay.
So when you leave a drive that way, how can we help Avery in this case? So one, enable drive encryption. I got a Mac. I use FileVault. Other people use BitLocker. We also have ESET, which some of you may have. You want to encrypt your drive at rest. And all that means is if someone left it there, if your laptop was sitting there, you didn't have drive encryption, I could take that drive out, plug it into my computer, and access your files. It's pretty scary, not something you want. Encryption at rest means that the drive is locked. So even if I extracted it out of your computer and I pumped it into something else, I can't get into it. So you want to make sure you have that. Another thing is mobile device management. Mobile device management is really control of the device. Where is it at? What can go in? What can go out?
Sorry, Waz, I have to go to the end. Wow, today's one of my favorite sessions, because you and I had a good conversation here about this. But let's go to this slide.
Sure.
Just because we're at 3 minutes, and I always like to leave people on time, start on time, end on time. So let's go to this one.
So here's the thing, guys, is all these countermeasures are great. We have a new service that we're offering that is penetration testing. So there's two things: penetration testing and vulnerability assessments or scanning, right? We do this in 2 different flavors. One is external. So that basically means I'm sitting on the internet, I'm checking your firewall, any exposed IP addresses for vulnerabilities to see if we can get in from the outside, right? That's something we do. This is above and beyond all the services we have. It's a completely different thing, and they're pretty robust endeavors. So the external one's on the left, right, where it's testing the outside perimeter. Then you have a very robust one that's internal penetration and vulnerability testing and external. So you're basically testing from both ends. So what does that mean? The internal one is more robust. It's checking all of your systems, each one of your servers, your switches, making sure there's no available vulnerabilities from the applications that you utilize. Let's say you use SQL as an example, there might be a vulnerability that needs to be patched. Tends to be an iterative process, but doing this is really slaying the vampire. This is kind of like the creme de la creme of cybersecurity and ensuring that your perimeter walls internally and externally are protected. So with that, I think Joanna actually has an offering that they put together for this.
Just real quick, I know we have like just a couple minutes left. What is someone going to get from this type of vulnerability assessment?
Yep, absolutely. So this is the way it works. There's a scan that's performed. The externals are a little quicker. The internal ones, we have to put a little device internally in your network, and it scans everything. It takes about a week to 2 weeks. It comes through, and then what you do is you have a report. And what I really like about the product that I sourced here is that it gives you proof of the breach internally for penetration. It'll basically show you what it did. It will show you the risk of said breach, and it'll show you how to mitigate it. overall, which is fantastic. And then what we do is we have a second cycle of it where we actually clean it up and then run the report again. So again, it identifies the threats, identifies how it did it, how it was executed, how you can mitigate it.
Is that for someone who's had a cyber attack or for someone who hasn't? And
anybody, whether you have a cyber attack or not, I'd prefer that this is prophylactic in nature and we're doing it ahead of the curve. Post, obviously, if you've had a cyber attack, this is something you want to do to make sure the hatches are battened down. But this is something you can do proactively.
Right. That's exactly right. And so I was trying to think of what could we offer everyone today. And, we do these webinars, we put a lot of time and effort into this. Right now, as was mentioned, that we're offering this to our clients and, future clients, we're giving you a big discount. You can see here. So we decided that we don't want to do the external and internal for people who are not our clients, just because it takes a lot more effort and we don't have access to your network, although we could probably work with your IT department if you really wanted to do both. For our MXO clients, we could do internal and external network vulnerability assessment. Some of you might have this as a requirement. Some of you might just want to do this because it goes into so much more depth. And I mean, if you look at like what we normally would charge for this versus what we're offering on the webinar today, I think it's amazing. So let us know. You can email ask@mxotech.com. Our account management team will respond to you and coordinate that with our cybersecurity team. So this is not like a, help desk admin or network admin that's going to be doing this. This is a real platform that we use with security specialists that I think is super valuable. I also wanted to tell you while we're wrapping up here that this webinar is going to be recorded. Karen and team and Sesson are going to share this with all of you. I suggest that you, perhaps share it with some of your team members who couldn't attend today. We can share the slides with you as well. I know somebody asked about that. And, and then of course, if you have any questions for myself, for Waz, for any of our team members, we are always here. So I think I've answered that question. And great. Yeah. Contact for your board. Yep. Absolutely. So Kim, we would love to connect with you. My email is I'll just send it to you guys, jmirov. You could always contact me directly and I will respond and provide you with any information you need, especially for your board of directors. Okay. I love that you guys like the theme. I know we're at the end here. I'd love to see any questions, any comments. If you enjoyed that, were you looking for something else? Is there anything that we can talk about or cover in the spring seminar that maybe you didn't hear from us today? That would be very helpful. Like, we do this for all of you. We want to make sure that, there's value for you. So if you could post any comments, give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever. And any like other thoughts you might have. And there's my email, and I'll actually put M Wozni. I'll give out his. Why not? At MXOtech.com.
Yeah, I mean, this is an endeavor, guys, to try and better educate everyone. When you do this, we win too, right?
Yeah.
And it's beyond the boundaries of your office. So Joanna always asks, if I'd like to do another one of these things, and I always say yes, because to me it's very powerful. It makes an impact on people's lives. I know it probably sounds cheesy, but it really does. So I'm happy to do this. Yes.
And that's our job, is to protect our clients, right? From cybercrime, from downtime, from all those things. I mean, it's really important. I don't know. Can you guys give us some feedback? A thumbs up, thumbs down?
I don't think you do thumbs up and thumbs down in the platform.
I don't know. Then just.
Oh, there's a smiley. Yeah, you can do it. You can do it right here.
Yeah, there's a smiley. Whether you guys, I think you have to do that manually. Thanks, Jazz. Oh yeah, I love that, Jazz.
Jazz.
Jazz. Okay.
That's Joanna and I combined, apparently. Jazz. Or was Hannah. That could work. Was Hannah.
Excuse me. No, thank you. And by the way, congratulations to all of you for participating. I hope you learned something. I would really, really love, if you are still on, I would love to hear one thing maybe you learned today or you took away that you didn't know before. I think that would be helpful because perhaps we could focus on that a little bit more in the future. Come on, guys, give us some feedback. What did you like today? Well, a lot of thumbs up. Okay, I like those. But is there anything that you walked away with today that you didn't know? Was this valuable? Oh, unrelated, but my hat's incredible. All right, y'all love that too. Made note to ensure that screenshot of our backups is available. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think, I think everyone should request that or have that given to them. So I think for our account managers who are on this call today, Donna, Melissa, Mark, maybe we should just send everybody for this cybersecurity month. This is why we're doing this. A screenshot of everyone's backups, making sure that they see what's being backed up, how much is being backed up, and that's actually happening. So I would love for you guys to do that.
Yeah, and Kim, on your part too, you might even want to have an endeavor where you do a restoration, like a full-fledged restoration. Because not only is it just a screen capture and the lights that say, hey, yes, it is, but you actually are doing a live disaster recovery test. Just worthwhile to me, especially.
I think Dave Bremer, who's on our call, and Lainey would love to see that. Right, guys? Yeah. All right. So, oh yeah, offer to send dark scan. Yep. Domains really appreciated. All right. So Catherine, one of our clients wants a dark web scan. If the AM team could do that, that would be fantastic.
Yep, we can do that pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, we'll get it out to you today. I mean, dark web scans, we can do those very, very quickly. Oh,
the devil in detail is a good one, Patrice.
Yeah.
It really is. It's the small things. And I think the biggest challenge people run into is they're like, how the hell am I going to have time to do this? You don't need to do it for every email, right? You just need to do it when people are looking for specific information, right? That's when you kind of need to examine it a little bit. Just know the bad guys are out there. They're pretty smart and pretty dumb at the same time because they can't spell, but they're pretty smart generally. And you want to just examine it. If they're looking for money or they're trying to get something out of you, question it. Don't be afraid to stop, question it, and then make a decision.
For those of you who are still on, would you appreciate a thanks, Dave. Would you appreciate a lunch seminar or something like at 4 o'clock? Would it be like a 12 p.m. lunch or 4 p.m. happy hour dinner-ish? We'd love to hear that too from you.
I'm going with 4 p.m. happy hour. That's what I'm throwing up. Like, do I get a vote? Do I get a vote? No.
Only if you promise to brew some beer, because that's what you told everybody in the beginning. Oh, beer. I'm seeing
Catherine.
beer.
There you go. Catherine's backing me up. I like it. Exactly.
Anybody else? Lunch. Oh, steak 48 dinner seminar.
Look at Dave jumping straight to the steak. I like it.
Okay, I know what kind of guy he is. Definitely. I love it. I love it.
Or steak and beer. Can we do both? We should do that. I'm on board.
Hey, listen, Waz, now that you're CTO and you told me that all these people are contacting you, I think you should get this sponsored.
Get it sponsored.
Steak and beer.
Good. I'm going to reach out to Dave after the meeting, see if he wants to throw in for a sponsorship. It's good.
No, I mean, I just use it. Hey, Dave, tell him, yeah, get those EDR SentinelOne vendors to do it.
Exactly.
No, not our clients. No, our clients, yeah. But,
Delaney, thank you very much for showing up. I haven't seen you in a while. Hope you're doing well. Have you changed your office?
Well, we are, we're still in the West Loop, but we're going to be like relocating to Lombard. Yeah. And we have offices in Chicago as well, but that one's the main one. So
yeah, it's the large one.
All right. Well, I'm going to end this webinar. Thank you for those of you who stayed on a little later. I always love the chatter afterwards. I appreciate it and look forward to seeing all of you in the spring. So
good to see you guys. Thank you so much. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.